The air crackled with tension. The town of Tombstone, Arizona was no stranger to conflict, but today felt different. The streets were eerily quiet, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Dust motes danced in the afternoon sunlight, casting an almost ethereal glow over the scene. The sun hung low in the sky, its rays piercing through the dusty air, illuminating the faces of those who dared to watch. 30 seconds. That's all it took to etch a gunfight into American history. In those fleeting moments, lives were changed forever, and a legend was born. On October 26, 1881, at a vacant lot behind the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona, legend was born. The Earp brothers, along with Doc Holliday, faced off against the Clanton-McClory gang in a confrontation that would be remembered for generations. The gunfight at the OK Corral. It was more than just a battle. It was a defining moment in the history of the American West. The echoes of gunfire still resonate in the annals of history. A clash of personalities, a struggle for power, a story for the ages. Wyatt Earp, a lawman with a reputation to uphold, and Doc Holliday, a gambler with nothing to lose, stood against the outlaws who threatened the fragile peace of Tombstone. It wasn't just a shootout, it was a symbol of the Wild West, a time when the line between law and lawlessness was blurred and justice was often delivered at the end of a gun barrel. Law versus chaos. Civilization against the frontier. The gunfight at the OK Corral encapsulated the essence of the Wild West, a place where bravery and brutality walked hand in hand and where legends were forged in the crucible of conflict. Wyatt Earp, a name synonymous with frontier justice. In the annals of American history, few names evoke the rugged spirit of the Old West like Wyatt Earp. He was more than just a man. He was a symbol of the relentless pursuit of order in a time of chaos. His reputation was built on a foundation of grit, determination, and an unwavering sense of justice. He was the embodiment of the lawman. In an era where the line between right and wrong was often blurred, Earp stood as a beacon of integrity. His role as a lawman was not just a job, it was a calling. He patrolled the dusty streets of frontier towns, always ready to confront those who sought to disrupt the fragile peace. A steely gaze, a quick draw. These were the tools of his trade. Earp's eyes could pierce through the bravado of any outlaw, and his hand was always steady, his reflexes sharp. He was a man who understood that in the West, survival often depended on being faster and more resolute than your adversary. By his side stood Doc Holliday, a dentist by trade, a gambler by nature, and a deadly gunfighter by necessity. Holliday was a complex figure, a man of many talents and contradictions. His skills with a deck of cards were matched only by his prowess with a six-shooter. Despite his frail health, he was a formidable presence, feared and respected in equal measure. They were an unlikely pair, bound by loyalty and a shared sense of duty. Their partnership was forged in the fires of adversity, and it was this bond that made them such an effective team. Earp and Holliday complemented each other perfectly. Where one was strong, the other was cunning. Together, they faced the dangers of the frontier with a resolve that few could match. Earp and Holliday were peace officers in Tombstone, a boomtown fueled by silver and riven by rivalry. Tombstone was a place where fortunes were made and lost overnight, a town teetering on the edge of lawlessness. It was here that Earp and Holliday made their stand, determined to bring order to the chaos. Their presence was a constant reminder that justice, though often elusive, was never out of reach. They were determined to tame the town. Their presence was a challenge to those who thrived on lawlessness. Earp and Holliday's efforts to impose order were met with resistance, but they never wavered. They understood that the fight for justice was never easy, but it was always necessary. Their legacy is a testament to the enduring power of courage and conviction in the face of overwhelming odds. The Cowboys, a loose-knit group of ranchers and outlaws, they resented the Earp's authority. Among them were Ike Clanton and the McClory brothers, Frank and Tom. Hot-headed and quick to draw, they were a powder keg waiting to explode. The Cowboys represented the untamed spirit of the West. They lived by their own rules. They saw the Earps as a threat to their way of life. The tension between the two factions escalated with each passing day. Tombstone was a town on the edge. The discovery of silver had brought a rush of prospectors, gamblers, and gunslingers. Saloons overflowed. Money changed hands quickly. Life was cheap. The Earps represented order. The Cowboys represented chaos. Their rivalry reflected the town's own internal struggle. Whispers of a showdown filled the dusty streets. The townsfolk watched with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The confrontation was inevitable. It was only a matter of time. The sun beat down on the vacant lot. A tense silence hung in the air. Then, the roar of gunfire shattered the quiet. Earp Holliday and Wyatt's brothers, Virgil and Morgan, faced off against the Cowboys. 30 seconds of chaos and bloodshed. When the smoke cleared, 3 men lay dead. Billy Clanton, Frank McClory, and Tom McClory. Virgil and Morgan Earp were wounded. Ike Clanton had fled. Doc Holliday had escaped unscathed. The gunfight was over, but the legend was just beginning. The gunfight sent shockwaves through Tombstone and beyond. The Earps were hailed as heroes by some, condemned as murderers by others. The West watched and waited for the next chapter. Justice was swift in Tombstone. The Earps stood trial for murder, but were acquitted. The Cowboys' allies plotted revenge. Morgan Earp was assassinated. Virgil Earp was maimed in an ambush. Wyatt Earp, driven by vengeance, embarked on a vendetta ride. He pursued the remaining cowboys with relentless determination. The gunfight at the OK Corral has become a part of American folklore. This infamous event, which took place on October 26, 1881 in Tombstone, Arizona, has captured the imagination of generations. It was a confrontation between lawmen, including the legendary Wyatt Earp, his brothers Virgil and Morgan, and their ally Doc Holliday, against the Clanton-McLaury gang. The gunfight lasted only about 30 seconds, but its impact has been felt for over a century. It has been immortalized in countless books, films, and television shows. From the classic 1946 film My Darling Clementine to the more recent Tombstone and Wyatt Earp, the story has been retold in various forms, each adding its own layer of myth and legend. These portrayals have cemented the gunfight's place in popular culture, making it a symbol of the Wild West's lawlessness and the struggle for justice. Was it a righteous stand against lawlessness, or a cold-blooded act of vengeance? Historians and enthusiasts alike have debated this question for decades. Some view the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday as heroes who stood up to the criminal elements that plagued Tombstone. Others see them as vigilantes who took the law into their own hands, driven by personal grudges and a thirst for revenge. The debate continues to this day. The gunfight is a reminder of the Wild West's brutal reality. Life in the frontier towns was harsh and often violent, with law enforcement struggling to maintain order. The OK Corral gunfight exemplifies the chaotic and dangerous environment of the time, where disputes were frequently settled with gunfire. It is a story of courage and violence, justice and revenge. The participants were complex figures, each with their own motivations and backgrounds. Wyatt Earp, for instance, has been both lauded as a fearless lawman and criticized as a ruthless enforcer. Doc Holliday, a dentist-turned-gambler and gunfighter, remains a figure of intrigue and controversy. It is a story that continues to fascinate and captivate us more than a century later. The OK Corral gunfight has become a lens through which we view the broader history of the American West. It encapsulates the themes of law versus lawlessness, civilization versus chaos, and the personal versus the public. The gunfight at the OK Corral, 30 seconds of lead that echoed through time. Its legacy endures not just as a historical event but as a symbol of the complexities and contradictions of the American frontier. Whether seen as a moment of heroism or a tragic episode of violence, it remains an indelible part of our cultural heritage.